Well, I didn't think we'd be doing another episode so early on this guy, but more news coming out about Kyle Tucker and some projections from insiders on where he could land.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day.
Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Like I said in the opening, we're not going to necessarily do episodes on guys all the time, but when it comes out that there's more information and more information and more information in regards to Kyle Tucker coming to the Toronto Blue Jays, we're going to update you guys. Also, who has waivers? Who is still eligible? Plus, what's going on with Ernie, Clement, and Joe Carter? We'll get into all that in today's episode. As always, I'm Brayden Iwasko. He's Carter First. Find us on Twitter, Brayden5Iwasko. Carter First, too, as well on our main one, at Locked On Jays. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok, at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button here on YouTube already, please do so. It helps us out a ton. And, I mean, why not, right? Carter, my man, more news on Kyle Tucker. I'm sort of blown away. I'll start here. Before I get into a little bit of the more speculatory stuff. This came out from Mark Feinsand. Says Kyle Tucker is certainly going to be in the mix, a free agent bat for the Toronto Blue Jays to pursue this offseason, listed as a potential favorite. So interesting out of Feinsand there. And again, this goes back to a conversation we had last week where he could end up, what are the odds, and how much the Blue Jays were on him. It seems to be heavy. Not only that, but Miles Straw has been, I don't know if he's petitioning or what he's doing, but he's been on the Instagram of Kyle Tucker the whole time, trying to get him to come to the Jays too. So a nice little story there from one of the Jays, seeing how great it is here in Toronto and wanting their buddies to come along with them.
It's been crazy the amount of reports we've seen. Like John Heyman said stuff about Kyle Tucker coming to Toronto. Jeff Passan has a quote that I'll get into about Kyle Tucker. Then, you get Miles Straw on a Kyle Tucker Instagram post saying a lifetime contract incoming, has a couple pictures of his baby's clothing, just other things, just, very family oriented posts. And then Miles Straw doing some advocating, and which I absolutely love to see. You see this all the time from players. And I'll just go into the comment that Miles Straw left on Kyle Tucker's Instagram page. He says, "Let's go. Now come to the Jays. I can help babysit." I mean, like anyone, I'll help babysit. If you Kyle Tucker's coming to the Toronto Blue Jays, I mean, I'll be their butler. I could do a lot of things if you want some incentive to come to Toronto. There's already so much out, obviously, about how good the clubhouse is. The rehab facilities, Dunedin, the spring training facilities, one of the best in all of baseball. So many attractive things about Toronto. I mean, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. locked up for 14 years. That contract kicks in this year. You have a relatively good farm system now, or at least a lot better than it was. Maybe not, on the top end of the league necessarily, but you have some pieces in there that you can definitely be excited about. So it's becoming more and more real. Initially, when we knew Kyle Tucker was going to be a free agent, this offseason was going to be the biggest free agent of the offseason. You knew the Blue Jays would be in contention, but I didn't think it would be up to this standard. I thought it was one of those Juan Soto situations almost, where the Toronto Blue Jays were going to be kind of named, maybe use as a little bit of leverage, but then you go on a World Series run and things change pretty quickly. So now Mark Feinsand, John Heyman, Jeff Passan all have kind of said that the Toronto Blue Jays should be a favorite to land Kyle Tucker. And I am absolutely all in. How could you not be on Kyle Tucker?
Yeah, Carter, it did feel a little bit going into this year about a little tongue in cheek, right? Where you didn't want to mention it too much because you didn't want to be the guys that are over here hyping it up for all the live long day for it to, and again, not be true. And as Toronto Blue Jays fans, they've had that happen to them, us now, twice, maybe 3 times or 4 times. It's been quite a bit that we've heard players could potentially be coming here and it end up not happening, or the media overhyping things. And that very well could be what's going on here too. But there are a lot of people now talking about this. And Carter, at the end of the day, a winning environment solves a lot of issues. And in regards to players wanting to come here, a World Series push really does help that. And I think players seeing the contract being paid out to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is incentive for them to understand that this club will pay money for important pieces to stay here. And I think the only question that continues to be spiraling in my head is, what about Bo, right? And now does the Kyle Tucker situation then damper the conversations with Bo Bichette? Does the Bo Bichette conversations damper the conversations with Kyle Tucker? I think that has to be a play. Again, we've went over the numbers, and I just can't see them spending a ton of money on both of those guys and then going to add starting pitching or bullpen. So as much as people want to say that Kyle Tucker could be a great landing spot here, I'm sort of taking a step back myself and being like, okay, again, we got to look at the money here because this team isn't going to go spend $1 billion a season to put a team out on the field. So I don't know, Carter. I guess where are you at with all that? Is your head sort of still in the same space as mine, where it's sort of you have to look at the money, or are you just thinking, hey, maybe they'll go and they'll spend?
Well, with Kyle Tucker's going to get significantly more money than Bichette will. I think Kyle Tucker's around 400 million. Bichette for me is around 250. It really depends on the length of the contract with Bichette. Because with the team, when you're looking at the business side of things and you're looking at the Toronto Blue Jays, it would benefit them if they got Bichette on a 4 or 5 year contract rather than that 7 or 8 year contract based off of just the age, the way Bichette is going to project. Already not a very good defender, already a guy that's not, the fastest guy out there. The bat to ball skills will always be there. But Kyle Tucker, previous Gold Glove defender, can steal bases. There's just a lot more of a complete player when you look at Kyle Tucker, and the money is going to reflect that. In theory, you should be able to get both of them. Again, I don't want to go too crazy and be like a Los Angeles Dodgers fan and just assume that every single person ever is going to come into the Toronto Blue Jays. But I will say if they somehow do get Kyle Tucker and Bichette, I can't imagine they're going to get one of those top end aces out of the free agent market. They'll probably end up just taking a shot on maybe an Eric Lauer type, probably a little bit better, maybe a little bit more of a proven guy, but it will be one of those signings. And then for the bullpen, again, I don't really have them spending in the bullpen a tremendous amount anyway, but I could see a very real possibility, and people aren't going to like this, that the Toronto Blue Jays just kind of take a flyer on a guy that has had previous success, a guy that they can get for between like $5 and $7 million. I don't think they're going to go out and, pay multiple bullpen arms $10, $15 million when we know how volatile these bullpen arms are. So again, and the dream is to get both Kyle Tucker and Bichette, and it is a possibility. I don't want to completely write it off, but I definitely would say it's more likely that they only get one or the other. But Kyle Tucker makes perfect sense for this lineup. We talk about just the contact ability. We talk about the Blue Jays mold, again, being a very good defender. And looking at the left-handed bat, again, it's not as big of a problem with Addison Barger, the emergence of him. But just when you look at the lineup and you look at how Kyle Tucker would fit into this lineup, George Springer obviously being your leadoff guy still, Kyle Tucker being that left-handed bat at that number 2 spot, a guy that can drive and runs, a guy that can hit for some power as well, get on base. For Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and then you have Addison Barger, Anthony Santander, guys that are more prototypical 4 or 5 hitters rather than that number 2 hitter. So I think Kyle Tucker perfectly complements this Toronto Blue Jays team. And the more and more we talk about Kyle Tucker, the more and more I'm falling in love with this guy. I mean, he's unbelievable. I know he had some injuries last year. Some people are going to be a little bit more down on Kyle Tucker, but I think GMs around the league, around the MLB, know that Kyle Tucker is one of the best players in all of baseball.
Well, and that's like when we had the conversation talking about this before. It's the fact that a lot of scouts and people going out and looking at Kyle Tucker's games, I think they all came to the same conclusion that he has a lot more to give, which is shocking because he's already a very good baseball player. But to see that he hasn't reached that peak yet of what a lot of MLB scouts are projecting, I think that's a good thing in the sense of a team looking to nail this guy down long term. So again, we'll have to wait and see what happens, Carter. And obviously, in regards to the bullpen conversations, there's been more that has come out, which we'll get into on tomorrow's episode because, we don't think that they're going to go and spend a ton on a bullpen arm. Me and you've had that discussion many times already that we think they're going to add maybe a lefty here or a righty there and just those diamond in the rough type of finds. But there are conversations going on with the big names as well, which we'll talk about more tomorrow. But Carter, I wanted to end this here because we do want to get into the waiver stuff and a couple just extra news as well for you guys here on the Monday. A lot of this offseason is going to be built around the big names, Carter. Obviously, as it always is, you sort of wait for the big names to drop. And that's how it's been the last 2 seasons, obviously, with different guys going off the books. Obviously, everybody waiting for the Juan Soto contract to drop before anybody really signs. Do you think that's how it's going to be this year, where you wait for the Kyle Tuckers to go and then everybody else falls into place? Or is it going to be more open season here? Guys are going to start falling off the board earlier and earlier.
No, that's always how it is, especially for the big market teams. Like, why would you not want to get the best player available? And then if that doesn't work out, you pivot to other options. Again, if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, you're the Miami Marlins, you're not really in the running. So maybe you are already looking at those lower tier guys, looking at some guys you can get for cheaper. But for teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Mets, the Jays, all those kind of teams that you always see around these big free agent targets, they're going to wait until Kyle Tucker, Bichette, those big fish sign with teams before they pivot to other guys that are available throughout free agency. Again, when you look at positional needs, like you have a little bit more options in the outfield than you do at in the middle outfield spots. Like it's really, other than Bo Bichette, it's Gleyber Torres, and then after that, you're taking a pretty massive dip. So that will obviously go into things as well. So I think with the outfield market, like you'll see it be a little bit slower probably than the Bo Bichette market. As soon as Bo Bichette goes, I think it'll be a fire sale with the rest of the middle infielders. It's going to be like, oh, if we need a guy, we're going to have to go out and get them because there is not a lot of options. But yeah, you're going to have to wait as a Toronto Blue Jays fan. Like nothing will happen until Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette are off of the market. Two guys they're obviously engaged with talks with, being the favorites for Bo Bichette, being in the talks of being favorites for Kyle Tucker. Again, I don't want the headlines make this very scary because we've seen this so many years in the past as well. Again, circumstances are a lot different now, but all the headlines of Shohei Ohtani, of Juan Soto, of Ryoki Sasaki, Corbin Burns, Teoscar Hernandez, like there's so many guys that we thought we were right there to get, and we were right there, right on the edge of the fence, and then it did go the other way. So I'm trying my best not to be all in on Kyle Tucker and assume that he's going to come to the Toronto Blue Jays because that's definitely a dangerous path that you could go down. But when you have, I mean, like I was just looking at articles, looking at the Kyle Tucker favorite stuff, and like one of them is Blue Jays should be all over proposed perfect move to land star this offseason. Blue Jays are favorites to land Kyle Tucker, perfect fit. Like just all the, like the word perfect makes it so much tougher. And it's very hard to not be all in when you're seeing so many different reporters kind of have the same thought process. But before we do kind of end the Kyle Tucker saga, I just wanted to go into the Jeff Passan quote, which kind of just sums up everything that we just talked about here. So he says, Toronto has plenty of money, a clubhouse teeming with good vibes, a jewel of the stadium for players, and the perfect opportunity for players who love the big city baseball without the typical big city trappings of New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles. After trying in free agency for Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, you know, I always screw this one up, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, well, with no luck in recent years, this is precisely the time for the Blue Jays to make the biggest move of the winter by giving Vladimir Guerrero Jr. his left-handed complement. You get a 1-2 punch of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Kyle Tucker, and then Bo Bichette will be in this conversation as well. You get those two guys locked up for a significant period of time. That is a team that you can build around. That is a World Series contending team that you have two staples for a very long time. And that pretty much cements that the Toronto Blue Jays will be contending for the next 10 or so years. And I think that's why people really want Kyle Tucker, really want Bo Bichette to be back. Nobody's ready for a rebuild after all the failed expectations that we've seen throughout the 2020s. People are ready to win. People are ready to see playoff baseball. You see how excited the city gets when the Toronto Blue Jays are a very good baseball team. And that's kind of where we're at. We just have to wait and see. Unfortunately, sit on the edge of our seats until a move is made.
Yeah, to me, Carter, I mean, you talk complimentary pieces. I think that, and being able to build around guys, I think those guys are in place right now. They're just looking for that extra big bat in this lineup to sort of fill it out. Other than that, we go up and down this roster, and we've done it before, and we're going to talk about it a little bit in the next segment as well. How, yeah, the pieces are all sort of here. It's just putting it all together finally. And Kyle Tucker and potentially both, Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette would make this lineup one of the scariest in baseball. So that's saying a lot. We're going to talk waivers. We're going to talk a lot more. Ernie, what is Ernie, Clement, and Joe Carter up to? We'll talk about that right after this break. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how much I love FanDuel. It's my premier place to place my bets, whether it's on NBA, NFL, NHL. No baseball anymore, sadly enough. Can't put money on that. That was where I was going the majority of the time. But I've been becoming more of an NBA guy, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps games exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Again, I used to be a Heat fan, became a Raptors fan, sort of later in my life. And so, yeah, once in a while, I'll chuck some money on the Raptors and pray to God that some of the overs hit. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's episode also brought to you by Doer. You guys know how much I like Doer. I've talked about them a ton. I just got my pants, my shirts in, and the fabric, the material, it really is a game changer when it comes to jeans. You think of jeans, you think, take them off when you get home, get into something more comfortable. You don't have to do that with Doer. They've got some exciting stuff. They combine classic jean wear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. It's sort of the best of both worlds type of design. And it's designed to make sure that you look great as well. It's not all about comfort; it's about looks and comfort. So it's sort of the perfect blend of technical innovation with everyday clothing. They invented the original performance denim. Simply put, Dewar makes the world's most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice the style. Trust me, once you've tried these, you won't go anywhere else. You can check them out. Check out Dewar here in Toronto, 44 Ossington Ave. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift. Mention the promo code Locked On Toronto in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online at duer.ca/LockedOnToronto for 15% off. That's duer.ca/LockedOnToronto. So, Carter, continuing on, we want to have a couple conversations just as this week kicks off. There's plenty of news to come out probably in the next few days, if not weeks, on regarding free agents, what this team's going to look like moving into 2026. I mean, that's why you have the offseason. But some I want to say more day-to-day stuff, some stuff that we need to have conversations on that maybe won't be news-breaking headlines. But let's talk about some of the guys that still have waiver options and now are out of waiver options, Carter.
Yeah, as we know, the Toronto Blue Jays are obviously going to add this free agency. They're not going to run back the exact same team that they did with some people leaving and expect to do as well as they did in 2025. So right now, the Toronto Blue Jays have 38 guys on their 40-man roster. Again, you had some guys taken off of it with Ty France, Bichette, all of the free agents. Obviously, that may or may not come back. Right now, you are at 38. So I'm going to start with the guys in 2026 that do not have options, that are either have to be added to the 40-man, have to remain on the 40-man, be with the major league club, or they have to be DFA'd. So a lot of these guys, I mean, that you probably won't care too much if you're going to lose, but there are a few guys on here that make for interesting cases. Eric Lauer being the first guy, the number one guy probably. If you don't have Eric Lauer on your major league roster, he will not be on the Toronto Blue Jays. Another guy is Ricky Tiedemann, a guy that will have to be added to the 40-man roster as well, or he will be going into the Rule 5 draft, and Ricky Tiedemann will definitely be picked up in that Rule 5 draft. Then there's other guys like Leo Jimenez, which is going to be an interesting piece there. Tyler Heineman, we'll have to see if they want to add another catcher there. Tommy Nance, and then Justin Brule to kind of end off that list. So just going into the 40-man roster with those guys, you have to add some of these guys to the 40-man already, and you have 38 players. That makes for some decisions to be made. But we look at the 40-man roster right now, and there are some guys on here that I think a lot of people would not care too much if they ended up not being on the Toronto Blue Jays. One thing I wanted to start off with is that Nick Sandlin has already been assigned to AAA, and he is not on this 40-man roster. This is a guy that does still have options, but a pretty interesting move for a guy that was a fairly big piece to this bullpen early on in the season in 2025, a piece that you got in the Cleveland Guardians trade for Andres Gimenez. So I guess they're really trying to manage these options and really trying to keep as many of these guys that they like available to them. Angel Bastardo was the guy they picked up in the Rule 5 draft before the 2025 season. He is on the 40-man roster. Clearly, they like this guy. He was injured a lot in 2025, pretty much the entire season, so not really many opportunities to pitch. But as we continue to go down the list, just to kind of as we're scrolling by, Adam Mako will be an interesting guy, a guy that had some injury concerns as well. Probably a guy that'll be in that fifth rotation spot in the mix for that. Looking at a couple other guys, Brandon Valenzuela, a guy that the Blue Jays traded for. If you're not going to take Tyler Heineman, maybe you take the defensive specialist, another switch hitting catcher, not really going to provide you too much offensive upside. But then there's guys like Jonathan Clase, Lazaro Estrada is on this list as well. Like, there's a few guys that could definitely be removed from this list. Justin Brule is a guy that's on the 40-man right now, but do you really need his services in 2026? Do you want to rely on Justin Brule for his services is probably a better question. So there will be some moves that need to be made. It's, you're not going to take Jose Berrios off the 40-man roster, even though that relationship is a little bit damaged. It's going to be some of the unproven guys. It's going to come down to which guys they think have more upside, which guys they think will project better than others, and then who is available as well. The Toronto Blue Jays always looking to make those little additions to help this team get as good as they possibly can get. It worked very well with Eric Lauer, so we'll have to see again. More of that wait and see game that Ross Atkins is going to play with us.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what every baseball club goes through. It's not anything specific to the Toronto Blue Jays, nothing like that. It's just, these are big decisions. To me, it's Tyler Heineman's job to lose for the backup catching role. I don't think that they're going to go in there and make a huge change. I don't think that he's a game stopper either, but a guy that I think was a big piece. You talked about the clubhouse and the feel. does the backup catcher overly matter depending on that? Would you rather have a guy that has been there and has been with this club, has shown that he has a potential to at least do stuff? I mean, he can swing it a little bit. He can throw down bunts if you need him to. He's not, I think, as a guy that you're looking at defensively, isn't quite up to standards. You've seen him sort of have his mishaps as well in the field. And they very well could go and add somebody, but I would, if I was a betting man, I'd expect Tyler Heineman just to be back because they can. That's sort of where I'm at with that one, Carter. I don't necessarily know how you view Tyler Heineman, but I just can't see them going out there to make a huge move for a catcher or anything like that, a backup catcher. I think they're just going to roll with Alejandro Kirk and Tyler Heineman to sub in games here and there.
See, I'm kind of on the opposite fence. I actually didn't mind Tyler Heineman's defense. I thought he was pretty good defensively, and I think that's why you kind of have Tyler Heineman. And then he just played out of his mind offensively this year. That's not something that you can ever expect from Tyler Heineman again. And the team is always looking to improve, and they're not going to go out and sign, this massive catcher and have, a catching tandem of Alejandro Kirk and whoever, whether it's like a Christian Vasquez or something like that. It would be cool to have a backup catcher, but you're expecting Alejandro Kirk to play 120-ish games. The backup catcher obviously does matter. It's a guy that is going to be in the game for 30 to 40 games, a guy that has to have a good relationship with your pitchers. Again, we know how important catchers are just for calling games, for helping pitchers out, calm them down, know what pitchers are working at the specific time in the game. We've talked about pitchers all the time, not having necessarily the best stuff every single time. So just reading and adapting to what you see in front of you. The familiarity is definitely going to be a big thing for the Toronto Blue Jays. And what they're going to look at is it a significant enough upgrade at the catching position, whether it's offensively, maybe you want a little bit better defensively, but I think Tyler Heineman's pretty fine for the most part defensively. So I think with anything, you'll be what we saw with the Christian Bethancourt thing. Like maybe provide some competition, add one more guy that, be in spring training and see, test Tyler Heineman's limits a little bit. You have Brandon Valenzuela in the system already as well. So I don't expect there to be a big move, but I'm not expecting Tyler Heineman to be nearly as productive as he was in 2026. So I would definitely be open to at least adding somebody to, give him a little bit of competition, maybe give him a kick in the butt a little bit and say, hey, this is a job that's not necessarily guaranteed to you.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Again, this is going to be one of those things that it's going to not be a big deal until it is a big deal, right? That's what the backup catching always is if Alejandro Kirk goes down with a massive injury, then we're going to have a bigger conversation. And then we're going to be looking back at, why didn't they add? But you can't bank on injuries. You can't pay two amazing catchers in the MLB to come play on your team just in case. So, yeah, it's one of those things that'll be up in the air, Carter. I did want to take a little bit of time talk about the Ernie Clement, the Joe Carter stuff, Carter, because you know what? It's not one of these big groundbreaking, oh my God, what is happening? But I think a cool thing coming out of the NBA or the MLB and what they're able to do here and provide extra content and sort of throw out these sort of nice players with some old vets. It was a cool idea. We'll come back. We'll talk about that right after this.
Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans, and cheering on your team. Let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at the checkout, it can definitely be frustrating, and that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price that you see is the price that you pay. Unfortunately for us living in Winnipeg, we probably won't be going out to any NFL games. Our roommate went to a Vikings game. He used Game Time. He said that was definitely beneficial to him. But we're going to be using Game Time for some Winnipeg Jets games. We're going to be using the ticketing app to get us the best deals. We're pretty familiar with Canada Life Center, but Game Time always gives us the best advantage of getting the best bang for our buck, especially at an NHL game where things can get pretty expensive very quickly, especially if you're trying to have a few drinks and maybe a bag of popcorn at the game. So you can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
So, Carter, as we continue on, this was just something funny that popped up on my page. We've known about it, that it was going to happen for a while now. It was the golf tournament where, you have one player and one legend on your team or whatever it was, two players from within the Blue Jays sort of sphere playing. And it was nice to see Ernie Clement, Joe Carter out there. Ernie Clement, a multi-sport athlete, good at golf, good at baseball, good at hockey. The guy can do it all. And to see him out there with Joe Carter, I mean, what an experience for a guy like Ernie Clement, eh?
Well, and of course, they get paired with the Los Angeles Dodgers and Will Smith. So Ernie Clement, unfortunately, having to relive a little bit of the pain that he had, obviously, during that World Series game. And then Will Smith giving a few of the chirps on the video I saw. Joe Carter stripes one down the middle. And they're talking about the Game 7. Obviously, Joe Carter hitting the walk-off in Game 7, kind of getting his moment. Will Smith, unfortunately, has a big home run against the Toronto Blue Jays. But since it's in Toronto, unfortunately, that is not a walk-off moment. So he's poking a little bit of fun at Joe Carter, kind of saying, hey, you got your moment. Kind of where's my thing? Tough to see still. I mean, that, again, another dagger into the heart. It's never going to end, unfortunately. We still have Dodgers fans in our comment section, which I think at this point is a little bit ridiculous, coming in, just, saying we're losers, saying some worse stuff sometimes than that. But I mean, I guess it's a little bit a part of the fandom as well. And hey, if you don't want that stuff coming back to you, I guess you got to win the World Series. But yeah, definitely a very cool moment for Ernie Clement being with a Toronto Blue Jays legend. And probably, I don't know too much about Joe Carter's game, but I know Ernie Clement is a very good golfer, so probably helping him out a lot carrying him around that course.
Yeah, good for Ernie. And you know what? Another big moment for a Toronto Blue Jays player. Trey Savage gets engaged. Congratulations to him and his now fiance. That is, just a lot happening here for the boys in the off season, right? You play 162 games of baseball, or 180 in the Blue Jays case, and you have no time for anything else. So yeah, I guess get the engagement done while you're out on a little bit of a break. That'd be my play, Carter. Maybe that's what we got to look into in our off seasons. That's when we got to do make some big moves out here.
See, I think Trey Savage was seeing the family dynamic that the Toronto Blue Jays had, with literally everybody on the team pretty much having kids. Addison Barger, Gausman, Max Scherzer, man, again, we might not see him again. Shane Bieber, all those guys. Maybe he wants to start the family. Maybe he wants to get things going, get some friends for his kids at the Ball Diamond. Probably
Young
saw,
guy.
the dynamic that was going on there. And how could you not be all in on what was going on in the Toronto Blue Jays clubhouse? So, of course, congrats to him. He's younger than I am. So, I mean, I got to look myself in the mirror a little bit. Guys will be making millions, going to have a family. And then I'm talking about Trey Savage and his family for my job. So, I mean, I guess, don't you try not to compare yourself to, professional athletes. If I didn't break my leg back in the day, maybe if the knee didn't give out.
Yeah, you'd be right. You'd be somewhere.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe on the bench, maybe the equipment manager.
There you go. Yeah, water boy. Yeah. You could bring Vladdy his spits.
No, I'll bring him in the fruit during the 18-inning game.
There you go.
I'll be the guy bringing out the pineapple and the watermelon.
Yeah, they just give you a call during the 18-inning games. They're like, your services are needed, sir. And you're racing over there from Manitoba, Canada. No, as always, we want to thank you guys so much for watching, listening, whatever you do, however you get the podcast, whether it's on the streaming sites here on YouTube. If you are here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You guys have been killing it, helping us out a ton. We're getting close to the 5,000 mark, and that's all thanks to you guys. It's been a crazy season, a crazy off season to come. Stay tuned right here to Locked On Blue Jays. Carter, my man, anything else before we kick out of here for the evening?
No, just going to continue to monitor the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes, the Bichette sweepstakes, Ranger Suarez, Edwin Diaz. Like, there's so many guys that we can kind of try to talk ourselves into, which is the fun of free agency. Everyone is technically available. You're not going to get every single player, but hey, I mean, who's going to tell you that you're not going to get Ranger Suarez? You're not going to get Bichette and Kyle Tucker, because they're all still available. They have not signed with teams, and until that, grave is kind of set to bed, I think that a lot of people are going to have some fun with this. And why wouldn't you? I mean, free agency and the offseason isn't that long compared to other sports, but still feels long, especially with how fun that baseball team in 2025 was to watch. So just excited to still bring you guys the free agent content. Thank you guys for watching, and we will be back with you guys again tomorrow.